All right, welcome back. You're listening to The State of Arrest. We're talking about how getting tough on crime, this attitude that has prevailed over the last couple of decades, has now shifted what was considered good law, and that was lengthy prison sentences, mandatory minimums, throw everyone in prison, has shifted to, hey, let's back off the minimum mandatories. Let's start thinking about educating our inmates. Let's have exit programs designed to acclimate people that have served lengthy prison sentences to society and becoming productive members of society. And why has this shift come about? I mean, it's an about face, really. Well, number one, money. The cost of housing the 100,000 inmates that Florida has within its prison system. The cost attributed to health care in that prison system. The $2.4 billion that is used to manage our criminal justice system and it not nearly being enough. Okay, so backing off, in theory, it made sense. Get tough on crime. I mean, that was the slogan for anybody that wanted to get elected. But ultimately, what we saw was an increase in the cost of housing, of imprisoning all of these defendants that were sentenced, despite the fact that Florida kept experience a decline in crime. Lowest crime rate in 40 years. I talk about it all the time on the show. Every year, crime rate apparently gets lower in Broward County, in Florida. But the cost of maintaining the prison system drastically increases. Now, this, of course, is due to the aging inmate population. It's also due to the fact that we imprison far more people than other states do. Now that it's affecting the taxpayers' pocketbooks, we're seeing some changes. We're also seeing changes due to special interest groups that have family members that were caught with a bottle of pills and end up having to serve a 25-year minimum mandatory sentence. Okay. Other things that I want you to think about before we wrap up today's show is that it's not just the cost to the taxpayers, but it's the burden on the criminal justice system. When you get tougher on crime and you take the discretion away from the judges, you create minimum mandatory sentences, well, those get thrown around all over the place, right? Drug trafficking, it's a serious offense. Well, drug trafficking is the sentencing for which is changing because it would surprise you to know, well, if you listen to the show, you know this, a bottle of OxyContin can get you a minimum mandatory of 25 years. But DUIs, a politically charged offense, also carries countless mandatory minimum sentences. And when you have a mandatory minimum sentence that includes something like a driver's license suspension, okay? What that does is it tells a defendant who wants to resolve their case and be rewarded for resolving their case and accepting responsibility, what it tells them is that, okay, we're going to give you the best deal that we can, but we're still required, and when I say we, the judge is required, it's required to suspend that person's license in the case of a DUI for 6 months, a year, whatever it is. Well, you could see where this would get in the way of plea negotiations because there are many people in Florida that simply cannot go on without a driver's license, so they go to trial. What does that mean to the judge? That means that instead of spending 5-10 minutes on a plea, they're spending 2-3 days in trial. In that 2 or 3 days, how many cases could they resolve? 30, 50? Consider also the fact that every criminal judge in Florida, especially Broward County, deals with the overlooming threat of an overburdened docket while getting pressured to move cases along, to get DUI, misdemeanor DUIs resolved in 6 months, to speed up the wheels of justice when it simply can't be done, where judges don't have the discretion, to accept offers or pleas because they're bound they're bound by these minimum mandatories that were enacted in getting tougher on crime. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to State of Arrest.